Hi folks, I'm smoking one of my longer pipes and in it I've got some Royal Yacht. This is an update video on my health issues that I've had. Some of you know that I was rushed to hospital on Monday. I had a very serious bleed and lost considerable amount of blood. My bowels were bleeding, but it wasn't just a small amount, it was sort of a pint at a time, half a pint at a time. 7 lots of blood, really. Sorry, I'm trying to put my lighter out. I hadn't realised just how dangerous it was, how close it had come, until talking to the specialist, the consultant, when he was signing me out saying you can go home. They have no idea where the blood's coming from, or was coming from rather. We know it was somewhere in the bowel. I had a sigmoidoscopy, and it wasn't from the sigmoid, but it might be from further up in the great bowel. I've got to have some more tests in outpatients. My blood pressure went down so that the top number was often 70 or below, which was quite frightening for them. I mean, as far as I was concerned, it was just low blood pressure. They were pumping me full of fluids and also including some stuff in it that would help the bleeding to stop, they hoped. And luckily the bleeding stopped on Tuesday morning. But then the blood tests were showing that my platelets were very low, my blood volume was very low, and it just wasn't going up, which they couldn't understand, because once the bleeding stops, it should have begun to replace itself and begun to improve. Which made them wonder whether there was still bleeding somewhere that wasn't evident, wasn't showing. So when my blood pressure was low, I was having it taken every hour, which meant no sleep, basically. And then sort of Wednesday, it was still not improving, and they were getting more and more concerned. But because I wasn't in any pain, or, I seemed to be okay mentally, apart from being very, very, very pale, they decided to put off a CT scan, looking for where it might be bleeding from, just to sort of see whether my bloods would come up. And then on Thursday, the drop stopped and my bloods came up, enough for them to sort of say, right, you can go home. No, Friday I went home. Came home Friday evening. But there's sort of some fairly bad news. Well, not bad news, but possible bad news. He wants me to have a test for my liver, because apparently I might have what they call diabetic cirrhosis. Although I'm not now registered as diabetic because my sugars have come down to normal, the liver's been affected, and they want to do some tests to see how badly affected it is. Liver's quite good at regenerating, but there are times when it's so badly affected that they can't, that it can't regenerate. So the first test that I have to have is a colonoscopy, the tube up the back passage again. That will be the third time this year. If that doesn't show anything, then there'll be a tube down, that they'll go down, which after discussion with them I've decided that I won't have anaesthetic with that I'll just take it as it comes, because it was such an unpleasant experience last time when I was supposed to be adequately anaesthetised. And the colonoscopy I don't have anaesthetic for. If they don't find out anything there, then eventually I might have to have a CT scan, MRI scans, that kind of thing, to see what that shows up. But I've also got to have a test for the liver to see how badly affected that is. And then I will see the specialist in outpatients and we decide where we go from there. One of the positive things from being in hospital, it's the first time I've smoked this pipe and it's not a very good smoker, was that I didn't miss my pipe. I sort of just didn't wasn't desperate to have a smoke at all, just quite happy to let things go. It wasn't that I was too ill, it was just that I realised that I'm not addicted to pipe smoking, which Caroline's overjoyed about because the amount of pipes that I smoke. So I don't know how anybody else in the YTPC feels about that for themselves, whether you're addicted or not. But I certainly aren't at the moment, which means that I can enjoy as many pipes as I want during the day. Now, Caroline's not bothered. She's not worried about it. The other thing was that when I'd stopped bleeding and was sort of just waiting for things to improve, I got a visit from the "we must stop smoking" expert. And she came in and sort of offered me nicotine patches and goodness knows what else. And I said, no, thank you. I'm quite happy with my pipe. And she said, do you know the risks? And I said, yes. One of the risks is that I live a year longer than people who don't smoke a pipe. Which amused her. But I discussed the types of cancer you could get with smoking a pipe. Just told her what I knew. And she was quite happy. She said, I recognise that pipe smokers are different. She said, had I thought of vaping? And I said, yes, you can forget that. And she said, why? And I said, because I consider it too dangerous. And she don't know those fools in America who have been mixing stuff with the vape. That's been the problem. And I said, no, it hasn't. I said, yeah, it has for them. But you don't know the effects of smoking, of vapor going into the lungs as often as it does when people are vaping, the long-term effects. And she said, well, it's fairly pure air. And I said, no, you don't know what it does to the lungs over a long period. And she's obviously a great fan of vaping. But I admitted, yeah, I was right, they don't. But we parted as good friends. She sort of said, no, you carry on. I'm not here to demand that you stop smoking. And she said, I do recognise the difference and the advantages of pipe smoking by way of relaxation and the rituals involved. So that's where we ended, although she did call back later on in the week, forgetting she'd been to see me, and then walked in, oh no, you're the pipe smoker, aren't you? Carry on, and sort of wandered out. So I was quite pleased about that, and quite pleased that we could discuss it generally. But then when it came to saying, right, I could go home, the consultant came to see me, and he said, do you realise just how ill you were? And I said, well, I didn't feel ill. And he said, no, but it could have been close the other way. He said, if it had dropped much further, your life was in danger. and we discussed, dying. And I sort of said, well, it doesn't bother me. I'm not frightened of dying. If it happens, it happens. And, that's all I can say. But what it did make me realise was just how fragile life is. 1 minute on Monday, life was normal. 10 minutes later, it wasn't. And I hadn't realised that when I was in the ambulance, it took a long time before they set off. They were doing things and stuff, taking heart measurements and all sorts of things. But what they were trying to do was get me stable so that I was stable enough to go to a hospital. So just finally, it emphasised to me how we should live each day as if it's the last. Not being morbid, but sort of saying, I'm going to enjoy today. Today is a good day to die. Not by that I mean I seek death. But if death comes, I want to be able to say, well, I've lived today, and take it from there. Anyway, I'm going to stop there, but thank you for all the support, prayers from various people and positive thoughts. It hasn't made me think any more about the presence of a God. But that's because I believe that we all share in divinity, that within us and within everything there is God. Not that everything is God, but within everything, living and sentient, there is God. Trees are sentient. When they get attacked, they send out roots and instructions to other trees, especially with disease and that. If one tree begins to weaken, they will send out their roots to merge with the tree's roots to send sustenance. Plants, it seems, have sentience. They might not have intelligence, but they are aware. I joined in a group on veganism and making meat from plants, and somebody pointed out that this vegan said, well, I will not eat anything that I have to kill. And somebody said, well, what do you eat? Because plants you have to kill. And they said, yeah, but that, that's different. And he said, no, it isn't. He said, you can hear a cabbage scream when you cut it if you put the right equipment to it, and the same with every plant. So that's an interesting thought. Anyway, it's 20 minutes. I've gone on too long. But every blessing to you all. May your pipe be forever full, May your smokes be sweet, and may your life be blessed, and may each and every day be lived as if it's your last.